Because I'm not finished with you yet. I'm not finished with you yet. I got a plan and a purpose for your life. And we're going to continue the journey towards that in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Y'all can give it up for the band one more time as you take a seat. Thank you. Well, I'm glad we got a chance to adapt. We didn't know when we were going to meet inside, and now we're forced to meet inside, and I think it's all right. This seems all right. I like it. You know when you're motivated by a mission, when you decide to begin to live beyond yourself for something greater than yourself, you got to reevaluate some things. You got to reprioritize and reorder some stuff in your life. See, when you decide to live for something greater than yourself, everything has to shift, right? I mean, this is what happened when I got married. Because before I got married, I was living for me, but now it's we. I can't live for myself anymore, right? Everything had to shift. I had to reevaluate some stuff, reorder some stuff, reprioritize some stuff. Hey, this is why some marriages don't make it. Because you married somebody, but he's just living for himself. You married somebody, and she's just living for herself. Hey, I just saved some of y'all's marriages right now. If you'll just take that premise right there, you'll go back and talk about this a little later and ask your spouse, or you just ask yourself, am I living for me or am I living for them? Because when you get married, you got to live for something beyond yourself. You got to live for something greater. You're not living for someone else and not just yourself. The same is true if you have kids, right? I mean, when my wife and I had our kids, Aiden and Amaya, I knew everything had to shift for us. Our priorities, our time commitment, everything. We had to reorder, reprioritize, and reevaluate everything. I knew my life would never be the same when I held my daughter that first time in my arms. Everything had to shift, everything had to change. Because my wife and I, we weren't living for ourselves anymore. We were living for something greater, something grander, something bigger. And you've experienced this in your own life. If you're married, if you have kids, if you have a career, or you went to college, or you tried to build something, you knew now that you were living for something bigger than yourself, and so everything had to shift. I know this happened when we were in the process of launching this church. You know, over 6 years ago when I had the vision, and my wife and I were in the process of launching a church in the city of Norfolk that no other church, to launch a church, to reach people no other church was reaching. When we had this vision to launch a church in the city of Norfolk where people would be raised to life in Christ and people would come to discover that God loves them for who they are and not as they should be, because none of us are as we should be. See, when we had that vision, when we caught that and we were motivated by a mission, we had to reorder, reevaluate, and reprioritize everything in our life so that we could accomplish that mission. This is what 35 people did on our launch team when they came alongside my wife and I to see this church launch. We had 35 people before we ever started, and they said, we believe so much in this mission, we're going to do whatever it takes to see this church get launched off the ground. We're going to give, we're going to serve, we're going to sacrifice, we're going to do whatever it takes to see this happen. They were motivated by a mission, and so they reprioritized, they reevaluated, and they reordered their life to accomplish that mission. You can look back in the history of our church. We had the vision board up earlier. It was outside. We took it down though because it's raining. But next week when you come, I want you to look over that vision board and you can see some of where we've been. This is what happened when we said as a church, what if we could raise 1,000 pairs of shoes for people who don't have them? And not like raise 1,000 pairs of shoes in a year, but what if we could raise 1,000 pairs of shoes in a day? See, we were motivated by a mission, so we did a shoe drive. And that day, we raised 1,001 pairs of shoes. And people were so motivated by the mission that some people who were there even took off the shoes that they were wearing so that they could donate them. See, when you're motivated by a mission, you reorder, reevaluate, and reprioritize everything in your life. This is what happened when we said, what if, as a church, we hosted the largest egg drop the city of Norfolk has ever seen? And here's the thing, it was impossible until we did it. It was impossible until we did it. But what we did, we had 40,000 eggs, thousands of which were dropped from a helicopter. And we weren't a church of thousands of people coming together to do this. We were a church of just over 150 people. But when people are motivated by a mission, they reprioritize, reevaluate, and reorder their life. They go all in to accomplish that mission. And that day we saw over 4,000 people come out, and they discovered that there was a church in this community that loved them. And I could go on and on about some of the things that we've done as a church and how people of the past were motivated by a mission so that we could accomplish great and amazing things. But when you're motivated by a mission, when you're living for something beyond yourself, something bigger than yourself, then it requires a reordering, a reevaluation, and a reprioritization of everything. And this is also true when it comes to our relationship with Jesus. See, if you've ever come to a point in your life where you thought, oh wait, hold on, there's a real God who really loves me and he's really called me by name. If you've got to that point where it's clicked with you, and I mean really clicked with you, where you understand there's a real God who really loves me and he's called me by name, and when that becomes a reality for you, not just a belief, not just a thought, not just an idea, but it becomes your reality, oh my goodness, in all of my sin, in all of my wretchedness, in everything I do wrong, in all the stuff I don't get right, there's a God who calls me by name and he says, I love you, and I forgive you. To give you new life. When that clicks with you and you make the decision to believe that Jesus died for you on the cross, that he rose again from the dead, and you make the decision not just to believe in him but to follow him, to make him the leader of my life. He's not just some side piece in your life. He's not just in a compartment of your life. He's not just something that you show up to an event and say, hey God, and then go on. But he becomes the center of your life. And then you're baptized into him, you're immersed into him in the waters. When you make that decision, you begin to live for something greater than yourself. Because now you're living for him. Now you're living to accomplish his mission in the world. And when that happens, a reevaluation, a reordering, and a reprioritization of things has to happen. You are no longer the same. You can't be the same. By the way, if you've never made that decision to say yes to Jesus, to say, I want to follow you, I want to give you my life and be baptized into you. And look, maybe you were baptized as a baby, but you never made that decision. If you're ready now to make that decision, I want to let you know on October 25th, our goal is we're going to meet outside unless it's raining, but we'll be meeting outside and we're going to set up a hot tub out there. We're going to be doing baptisms. And if you're ready to make that decision to say yes to Jesus, to go all in with him, to begin following him, I want to invite you today to stop by the Connect area and let them know, hey, I want to make that decision to be baptized. If you can't stop by, you can also do it on your phone through the Bible app. Just fill out that Connect card and let us know you want to get baptized, because we want to connect with you and we want to help you get ready for October 25th. But when we meet God and we decide to live for him, I mean really live for him, because come on, you know some people who are Christians but they don't live for God. Maybe that's you. When you decide to fully live for God, everything shifts. You got to change everything. And so I think we get this understanding that when we live for something beyond ourselves, when we live for something more, there's a reevaluation, a reordering, and a reprioritizing that has to take place in our life. And you get it, right? I mean, if you're going to live for abs, then you got to reorder some stuff. You got to work out differently. You got to reevaluate your diet. If you're going to live to get out of debt and be financially free, you got to reorder your spending habits. You got to reevaluate some of what you're doing and how you're living when it comes to money. So we understand that. When we decide to live for something beyond ourselves, bigger than ourselves, when we're motivated by a mission, there's a shift that has to take place in our life. But in order for us to make that shift, it requires work. We have to do something different. If I'm going to get something I've never got before, I need to do some things I've never done before. And that's what we've been going over and over and over throughout this series, Survival or Revival, Your Call. And so what we've said throughout this series that we started back on September 13th is that you can experience survival. COVID sucks. I'm just barely making it through. 2020 is a terrible year. You can survive in all of this, or you can experience revival, new life, hope, joy, peace, patience. And what we've said throughout this series is it's your call. It's your call if you're going to simply survive or live in revival. Here's the theme passage throughout this series, and this is the choice that God presents to the people of Israel. He presents this choice to us as well. Deuteronomy 30, verse 19. He said, "This day I call the heavens and the earth as witnesses against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life, so that you and your children may live." And so throughout this series, we said you have a choice. You can either choose life or death, revival or survival. It's up to you. You got to make a decision. And my hope is that throughout this series, you've engaged in that. You've been reevaluating some things, reordering some things, reprioritizing some things in your life so that you can live in revival. Because revival will not come if you simply seek it haphazardly. You got to chase after it with your all. And so we've talked about the work of revival. We've talked about giving like never before. I mentioned last week how we started this initiative on October 1st, so just a few days ago, that we're going to read the Bible for an entire day. We've been posting devotionals every single day so that you can tune in, you can see what the verse is, and then read it for yourself and get some context behind it. So we're going to continue that throughout the month of October. We're going to read the Bible every day because, hey, if you want to see a shift in your life, you got to get close to God's Word. So we're going to read the Bible every day. We're going to serve for a week. And so coming up October 18th through the 25th, we have an event we call Paint the City Orange. And it's a blitzing of our city where we're going to serve our city and show love like never before. And so we have a bunch of different service projects that you can sign up for. Some of them you can even lead if you want. But we got a bunch of service projects you can sign up for because we just believe that when a church exists in a city, that city should get better. And one of the ways that it gets better is by the church rising up to show what resurrection looks like by serving our city. And so we're going to serve for an entire week, October 18th through the 25th. We're going to cap that off with a blood drive that's going to take place right here in this room. And so you can give blood and save lives through that. So we're going to serve for a week. The other thing that we said is we're going to fast for a day. October 17th, we're going to fast as a church collectively for an entire day so that we can seek God and see some breakthroughs in our life and figure out what does He want for us, what is the next step. And then we've also said we're going to give like never before. So this is where we've been. This is the initiative that we have going on right now. We're going to read for a month, serve for a week, fast for a day, give like never before. And the anticipation in doing that is that we would see breakthrough in our life. We would see revival break out, and we'd see some things shift. My hope is that you would look back on October of 2020 and say, that was a month everything changed for me because I pressed in, I leaned in towards God, and I did the work required to see revival. And so my hope is that you're making this decision on your own as an individual. But I want to talk for the rest of my time today about how collectively we can see revival break through in this church. First, it begins with you experiencing revival in your own life, doing some things you've never done before, to see some things you've never seen before. And if you're doing that, then together, collectively, if we band together and are motivated by a mission and live for something bigger than ourselves, we'll see revival break forth in this church. And I want to show you where we see this. I want to show you where we see this in the Old Testament, how a group of people, a gathering of people, decide to live beyond themselves, and great and amazing things happen. It was about 2,500 years ago, in the year 444 BC, this guy named Nehemiah, who was working for the king, the king of Persia, his name was Artaxerxes. Nehemiah gets word that the city of Jerusalem, which is the capital of Israel, is in ruins. See, Persia has taken over Israel. They've destroyed the city, they've ransacked it, and the walls of the city are in ruins. And so Nehemiah gets word of this, and Nehemiah cares about this because Nehemiah is an Israelite. And so he hears about the city that is the capital of Israel destroyed and in ruins. And here's how he responds to when he hears that. When I heard these things, I sat down and I wept. For some days I mourned and I fasted and prayed before the God of heaven. So Nehemiah, this Israelite who's in the service of King Artaxerxes, this Persian, he hears about the the capital of Israel in ruins. The walls are torn down. And he says, I wept about it. Like Nehemiah feels this burden for the city of Jerusalem. He has this holy discontent. It's like he hears about the situation. He says, that should not be. This is not good. And like it breaks his heart because the city is in ruins. I wonder, are there things in this world that break your heart where you say, that should not be? This is one of the reasons why as a church, we support A21 campaign. Because for me, I look at human trafficking and I say, that should not be. That people should not be bought and sold. Bodies are not commodities. And so we've said as a church, we're going to support A21 campaign that does work to combat human trafficking. And so actually, when you give back to God through this church, a portion of what you give goes to fight human trafficking because we support A21 campaign. And we support them because we just said, this is not right. And it shouldn't be. And we got to do something about it. I wonder, do you have a holy indignation about anything? A holy discontent about something? Are there things in the world where you say, this should not be? And then the question I want to ask you is, what are you doing to change it? Because Nehemiah, he feels this. This should not be. So he goes to King Artaxerxes and he says, King, the walls in the capital of my country are in ruins. I'm burdened to do something about it, and I want to go fix them. Now, when Nehemiah goes to King Artaxerxes and he asks for permission to go rebuild the walls, this is almost a death sentence for Nehemiah. Because in this time, you don't approach the king unsummoned. The only time you talk to the king is when the king wants to talk to you. So when Nehemiah goes up to the king, he's putting his life on the line, but he's looking at the injustice that's there, and he says, it's worth it. I will gladly give my life for this. I will die if I have to, because I believe so strongly in this. See, Nehemiah, he's motivated by a mission. He's willing to give his life for this mission. So he goes to King Artaxerxes, he tells him what's going on, and the king actually says, yeah, go rebuild the wall. So then Nehemiah, he goes to Jerusalem, and he scopes it out, and he sees that it's in ruins, it's in disrepair, it's in terrible condition, and so he gathers the rabble of the city, all the people who are left there, and he says, hey, I want to tell you about this mission that I'm on, and I want to invite you to be a part of it. Here's what it says. Then I said to them, you see the trouble we're in? Jerusalem lies in ruins, and its gates have been burned with fire. Come, let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem, and we will no longer be in disgrace. I also told them about the gracious hand of my God on me, and what the king had said to me. They replied, let us start rebuilding. So they began this good work. So here it is. Nehemiah goes to the people of Israel who are just surviving, right? Their city has been destroyed. The wall has been knocked down. This is 2020 for them. This is terrible. They're just surviving. But then Nehemiah comes and he says, hey, I got a mission. And I want to tell you what the mission is. We're going to rebuild this wall. And the people jump on board with that. They get motivated by a mission. Now they got to reevaluate the way that they look at things. Now they got to reprioritize what they're going to do. Now they got to reorder their life. Why? Because they're about to accomplish this mission of rebuilding the wall. And I love what happens because Nehemiah chapter 3 shows us all the people who jump in on the work. Now they're excited. They're motivated by this mission. So they jump in to start working on this wall. And in Nehemiah chapter 3, it shows us some of the people who lent their hand to rebuilding the wall. Nehemiah chapter 3, verse 8, it says this. Uzziel, son of Herahiah, one of the goldsmiths, repaired the next section. And Hananiah, one of the perfume makers, made repairs next to that. They restored Jerusalem as far as the broad wall. And then in verse 12 it says, Shallum, son of Holahash, ruler of a half district of Jerusalem, repaired the next section with the help of his daughters. Here's what I love. Nehemiah says, come on, we got a wall to build. And the goldsmith says, I want to help. They don't teach wall building in goldsmith class. Nehemiah says, come on, we got a wall to build. And the perfume maker says, I'm in. They don't teach wall building and perfume electives. But these people said, you know what? Just because I'm not an expert, just because I don't know, just because I don't build walls, doesn't matter. There's a need, and so I'm going to meet the need. What can I do? How can I help? I'm available. They didn't say, no, I just do gold, I don't do walls. I just do perfume, I don't do walls. No, they said there's a need. Well, then what can I do? I want to help rebuild the wall. And I love Shalom. He gets his daughters involved. It's like there's no excuse, right? It's not like, oh, well, they're girls. No, they're like, oh, yeah, you want me to show you what Girl Strong looks like? Let's rebuild a wall. And they get involved. And like, it's so crazy. The people of Jerusalem rally around this mission. They're motivated by a mission, and they do whatever it takes to get this wall rebuilt. Except for some people. See, not everybody is motivated by the mission. Not everybody gets involved. Not everybody does some work. I want to show you where we see this. Oh, and by the way, before I get there, I want to make this note that God uses people who say I'm available. All throughout the Old Testament, all throughout the New Testament, God uses people who say I'm available. If you ain't available, God can't use you. God, I want to live for you, but I'm not available. I don't have enough time. God can't use you. God uses people who are available. You see it in the Old Testament book of Genesis, where Abraham makes himself available. He becomes the father of the nation of Israel. Moses, even though he's reluctant for a while, makes himself available, and he leads the people of Israel out of Egyptian captivity. You can read it in the book of Judges. These leaders who rise up in Israel, people like Othniel, Ehud, Deborah, Gideon, they say, God, we're available. And God uses them to do great and amazing things. You even see this in the New Testament. You see this with the disciples of Jesus. Jesus says, come, follow me. They said, I'm available. And they followed him and did great and amazing things. You see this with a guy like Barnabas in the book of Acts, who sells a field, and he gives the money to the church so that they can do greater things. You see it with people like Priscilla and Aquila in the New Testament. You see this over and over again. When people say, God, I'm available, God can accomplish great and amazing things through them. But when people sit back and watch others work, when people elect to opt out and sit out, then the movement just passes them by. And they're spectators. And we actually see this in Nehemiah chapter 3, verse 5. It says this, the next section was repaired by the men of Tekoa, but their nobles would not put their shoulders to the work under their supervisors. The next section was put together by the men of Tekoa, but their nobles said, no, we're not in on this. And you can see the scene, can't you? I mean, everybody's working hard on the wall. Everybody's doing their part. By the way, we wouldn't have been able to set this up in here like we did if it weren't for the army of volunteers who said, oh, we're moving from outside to inside. Come on, let's do it. And we did it in 45 minutes. And we wouldn't have been able to do that unless I couldn't have done it by myself. If it was just me, well, y'all be sitting on the floor looking at me right now. But you can see the scene, right? All these people in the city of Israel, they're working hard, dozens and dozens of people, maybe even hundreds of people. But then there's the nobles of Tekoa, sitting in the shade, spectating, sipping sangrias. It's like, what are you doing? Why are you sitting back and watching? These people are motivated by a mission. They're living for something greater. But you won't lend yourself to the work? You're sitting back just watching? What is wrong with that? And we can make an inference on why they were sitting back. I mean, they were the nobles of Tekoa, so most likely they were prideful. Most likely they were just like, I'm too good for this, you know. I don't build walls. I'm better than that. I don't know. But you know, there are others too who are sitting back while the wall is getting built. And I'm not talking about the nobles of Tekoa now, and I'm not even talking about an actual wall, but I'm talking about here and now in this room. See, as a church, I just believe that we're on a mission by God to see people raised to life in Christ. I believe that we're a movement in this city. I don't believe that church is a country club for Christians to simply come and sit and spectate. But the church, we're like a Coast Guard boat on a search and rescue mission seeking to find people who are lost. And everybody on the boat has to play their part. This isn't a cruise ship where you can just come and sip cocktails till you get to heaven. We got some work to do. We're on a mission. And because of that, I just believe everybody should play their part. But then there are people who are like the nobles of Tekoa, who sit back and say, I would love to, but I just don't have enough time. I'm really busy. I got a lot going on. Like the people who do serve in this church have all the time in the world. See, the thing is, this happens. This is put on by people just like you, who are just as busy as you, who have priorities just like you, all that stuff. But they carve out time because they're motivated by a mission and long to live for something greater. See, there are some who sit back and watch because maybe you're insecure or feel unequipped, and you're like, well, I don't really know what to do. That's okay, we'll show you, we'll teach you, we'll help you. Maybe you say, well, I'd love to serve, but I'd rather simply sit and see what happens because waking up early and moving stuff is inconvenient and it's uncomfortable, and I'd rather just be convenient. God has not called you to a convenient Christianity. And I say this not as a guilt trip, but as a reality check. I just wonder, are you helping to build the wall? Or are you like the nobles of Tekoa, simply watching and sitting back? Here's the amazing thing that took place in Nehemiah chapter 6, verse 15. It says, so the wall was completed on the 25th of Elul in 52 days. The people of Jerusalem finished rebuilding the wall in 52 days. That is an architectural feat right there. That is crazy, ridiculous. They finished this in like record amounts of time. But here's what I wonder. What if the nobles of Tekoa got involved and helped? Could they have finished it in 48 days? Right? How much faster could they have finished it if everybody got involved? And so I just want to ask you today, are you putting your shoulder to the work, or are you sitting in the shade like the nobles of Tekoa, simply spectating and watching? Here's what Peter, this guy who hung out with Jesus, said. He said, each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. The truth is this: God has given you gifts, abilities, and talents, not so that you can serve yourself or build your own kingdom, but so that you can use those gifts, abilities, and talents to serve in His kingdom and make a difference. So I wonder, are you using your gifts to serve others? Or are you hoarding them to yourself? And are we missing out on the gift that is you? Because I believe that God has placed you here and now in this place, not so that you can just receive, but so that you can give and we can experience the gift that is you. So will you put your shoulders to the work? Will you step up and be a wall builder? When you came in, we gave you a Lego piece. Did you get a Lego piece when you came in? Y'all didn't get a Lego piece? You're going to get it on the way out then. When you leave, you're going to get a Lego piece. And we're going to give you that Lego piece because I want you to remember, and I want you to know every time you look at it that that you are a part of the wall that God is building through this church. And if you remove your piece, then we will not be as strong as we could be. If you remove your piece, if you don't put your piece where it needs to be, then we won't be able to accomplish what God has for us as quickly as we can because we're missing out on the gift that is you. So you are part of this mission and movement. You also got some cards when you came in. Did they get cards? They didn't get cards either. Well, I'll preach a different sermon then. So I don't know what. So we made some cards, and on that card that you will see at some point today, it says "Lego my excuses." And there's a picture of a Lego there, and on the other side there's a Lego man, so you can have some fun there drawing in a Lego man. But you probably won't have time to draw on your Lego man now since you don't have your card. But on it says "Lego my excuses," and I want to invite you to say that I'm going to excuses and I'm going to sign up to serve in some capacity within this church. And there are so many open opportunities for you to serve and make a difference. And if you don't know how to do some stuff, that's cool. We didn't know how to do some stuff, but we'll train you. And so we got opportunities with video editing, with cameras, with live streaming. We got opportunities in production. We got opportunities in kids ministry, opportunities with connecting people, greeting people, all that stuff. And I just believe that if you get motivated by a mission and what God is doing in and through this church, you'll start to see revival take place in your life, and you'll see revival break out in our life. Because how many more people does God want us to reach, and how many more people are we capable of reaching without you, though? With you, we're better. We're better together. So, Nehemiah says to the people of Israel, all right, we're going to rebuild a wall. And they all get motivated by a mission. And to do that, it means that they had to reevaluate some things, reorder some things, reprioritize some things. If you're going to start serving in the local church, it means you might need to reevaluate some stuff. You might need to go to bed a little earlier on Saturday. You might need to reorder some stuff. You might need to reprioritize some stuff. But I'll let you know it's worth it. It's worth it. Because when you serve, when you get connected like that, you know that you get to play a part in what's happening here. And for every person who's going to get baptized on October 25th, you know because you serve, because you're a contributor, not a consumer, you played a part in that decision, even if it's indirectly. You know that because you're serving, because you're giving back, because you're living beyond yourself, because you're motivated by a mission, you're having an eternal impact in heaven because you're helping introduce people to Jesus like never before. So, at the end of the worship experience, I want to invite you to find those cards we got for you. Dear God, we spent some time designing them and printing them out. We got to get them to you. But I want you to fill out that card, and you're going to drop it off at the tables right back here. That's our connect area. And get involved. Get involved. So here's the last thing I'm going to say, and then I'm going to wrap up. We can have our worship team come back up. Not only is there a call to action to serve in the local church, and I believe everybody has a step to take. If you're currently serving, I believe the step you can take is that you decide, I'm going to give more, I'm going to contribute more. For those of you who aren't currently serving, I believe your step is to take a step to begin serving. It's also one of the best ways for you to get to know some people and build relationships with people. As you serve, you'll get to meet some people. But another step that I want to invite you to take today is to sign up for Paint the City Orange. And so this is our serving, our week-long serving event. You can sign up at the Connect area back here. You can also sign up online throughout the week. But my hope is that today you would take a step, because I believe God wants to build something great and amazing in and through this church. And we've seen great and amazing things take place in the past. We've seen people rise up in 2014 as we launched. We saw people rise up in 2015. In 2016, as we did an egg drop, we saw people in this church rise up in 2017, 2018, 2019. People through this church in the past have risen up. We've seen revival take place. We've seen great and amazing things take place. But hey, this isn't then. This is 2020. This is your time here and now. Please don't tell me the people of the rising back then had more faith than you. It's time for us to rise up and go all in together. We got a wall to build. We got a mission to keep. We got people to reach. Come on. So if you would pray with me, God, I want to thank you so much for your grace, for your mercy, that you've called us to live for something beyond ourselves, something greater than ourselves. And I pray that we seize the opportunity to say yes to you, to enter into this mission you've called us to. Give us the strength, give us the confidence, give us the courage to sign up to serve, because we got a wall to build, and we won't stop till we're done. In Jesus' name, amen.